So now I'm taking you through the main and most common plane parts. We're going to see in this lesson how you can locate them. So basically, where are they in a plane? How to describe their location using the preposition in, at, on, which can be confusing sometimes. And then we'll also work on the pronunciation. So you will see some phonetic and you will hear my voice. So let's get started. First, the plane parts. One of them is like human, and you basically pronounce it the nose, nose. Remember that you don't say noise, but nose, nose. Next plane part is the landing gear. The landing gear is the part you use to land. This is why it's called the landing gear. Just make sure you don't say gear or gear, but landing gear. Another one is the engine, engine. One of the mistakes that you can hear in pronunciation is generally people say engine, which is incorrect. You say engine. Right, next one is the one that pilots use to see. So it's transparent and it's called windscreen, windscreen. A little bit later in the lesson, you have more about the difference between British and American. And in American English, you would say windshield. Windscreen, windshield. Right, the next one is an important one, and you need to pronounce it emergency exit. I insist on the first syllable that you don't pronounce emergency, but emergency. And you don't really pronounce this part. You mainly say emergency. So we focus the stress on m. This is why it becomes e, and it kind of becomes nearly silent. Emergency, emergency exit. Right, next one is the tire, tire. And the tire can be spelt two different ways, with a Y, this is the way we see it here, or it can also be with a I, tire. The difference is British and American again. Just be careful, the tire is really the black part that you can see. But if you want to talk about the overall part, like the roue in French, that would be the wheel. The tire is really just the black part. Okay, next one is the light. This is kind of an easy one. You can use it in other contexts. So this is lights, light, S or no S. Next one is a little bit harder to pronounce. This is what you need to hear the radio, and this one is called aerial, aerial. Again, on this word, there's a difference with the American version where you say antenna. Right, next one is the whole part that kind of contains all your plane. And this is not fuselage, but fuselage, fuselage, fuselage. So you kind of need to imagine like it's the French word with a little bit of English accent. And the last plane part we're going to see is the wing, and with an S you pronounce wings, wings. And same, that would be the same for a bird or chicken. If you go, for example, to KFC, you can have chicken wings. Now, let's see a bit more about the preposition of location, and in particular, we're going to focus on in, at, on, and when to use which one. In, at, on is very complex in English, and you have tons of possibilities. So we're just going to focus on when you talk about location on a plane. Keep in mind that there are other ways to use in, at, on, and in particular, you can use them as preposition of time as well. So let's have a look when you talk about plane. All the parts situated here are located at the front, at the front. Then we move to the part in the middle, and at the rear. We generally don't say at the back of the plane, but the rear of the plane, which is a synonym, but when you locate generally on a transport, you say rear. Right, you can also talk about things which are at the top of something. And if you talk about where is the plane, you can say that the plane is on the runway, but at the stand. On the runway, at the stand. Next one we're going to see is another place at the airport, and you say on the taxiway. On the runway, at the stand, on the taxiway. Right, let's do a little bit a recap of in, at, on, in which situation you use them. If you get lost, here is a good recap. In the middle. At, you would say it for the front, the rear, and the stand. And the last one would be for the runway and the taxiway. Do not hesitate to get some practice to reinforce this notion, which is very important.